What is up, everyone? I'm Thomas Miner. I am an agent with Remax Precision, and this is Thomas Talks on Thursday. This is a weekly live stream that I do not just to keep you informed about the real estate market, to keep you more knowledgeable about how certain processes of the real estate market work, and keep you more informed and stuff like that. I also love to talk about the Des Moines area, but most importantly, I'm doing this to have more of a conversation with my friends, family, and followers. I want you guys to get a feel of what these conversations actually sound like, get you guys an idea of what it's like to work with me, get you guys an idea of what I'm thinking about during all of these processes, and hopefully you learn a few tips and tricks along the way. But I really, really want you guys to be involved. So if you are watching, do not be afraid to comment with any question you have, even if it's not necessarily the topic I am covering today. I will either cover it live, just on the fly right now, or I'll make a whole episode about it later and make sure that you know that that's what I'm doing. So last week I did a mock buyer's consultation. It kind of walked you guys through what that looks like, what that sounds like, and things I'm thinking about during a buyer's consultation. So I wanted to do the opposite. Let's do a seller's consultation. So people will reach out to me, say, "Hey, Thomas, I'm looking to sell for whatever reason." I will normally ask them simply on the phone, "Okay, why are we looking to sell? What is your timeline looking like? And um, what have you done to the home since you guys have moved in? If you guys bought it on the MLS, I can look up and see what kind of condition it was when you bought it. I'm trying to get an idea of, has it improved, or has really nothing been done to it? Gives me a really, really good idea of how to run comps. I will also get an idea of how much you owe on the house so I can bring as accurate as possible of an estimate of proceeds. So in that first seller's consultation, you guys will have a decent idea of how much money you'll be making. Then we meet up at the house, we walk through the house. I point out things that I think would be a good idea to do before we list, and just kind of what I see as I'm walking through the home, right? Then I sit down and kind of start walking through some of this stuff so people have a good idea of where my head's at during this whole process and what my goals are. So we got goals right here. So my first goal when helping someone sell their home is to be the best communicator that you have ever worked with. I do this by one, always being available for a phone call or text if you guys have any questions. I am immediately sending feedback that the buyer's agents will leave after showings. That, unfortunately, is completely up to the buyers that show the house how quickly they give me feedback, but I'm giving it to you as soon as I get it. I also will do like a weekly summary of how the listing is going. Um, Kind of information that I give on that weekly summary is how much online traffic, how much actual in person traffic. Um, so I'm recapping how many people have visited ZillowRealtor.com and my personal website to look at the house. How many people have looked at it on our MLS portal is another really good key feature there. And then I'm recapping how many showings we've had in that last week, what the feedback has been like. And then I also give feedback on what the market has looked like. So in your neighborhood, what houses have sold and what did those houses look like? So you have an idea of what is getting offers if yours has not gotten an offer yet. Those are the kind of things I'm always communicating. And then I'm always there to answer any of your questions as well. Another one of my goals is to educate people. I basically want you to be as educated as possible to make a good decision that you feel comfortable with. But I also, at the same time, do not want to overwhelm people with information, and give you decision analysis paralysis, basically. There's pros and cons to basically every decision you're making while selling. I want you to have a clear idea of those pros and cons, but I don't want to throw so many at you that we end up just never making this decision. That kind of leads right into one of my other goals is to decrease stress. Um, it can be a very, very overwhelming process selling your home, especially if you're selling and then moving on to buying, like right around the same time, because you got two different transactions going on. You got to make sure yours sells, and you got to make sure you're happy with the one that you're purchasing and that transaction is going smoothly as well. I decrease stress a lot by anticipating problems, and anticipating things that'll come up, and I give you as much of a warning on them as possible, so it's not a last minute thing like, "Hey, we gotta get such and such done before tomorrow." I'm not if I can avoid it, I am not putting you in those types of situations. Lastly, and probably most importantly for sellers, I am looking to maximize the whole process. I'm looking to find that sweet spot depending on what your goals are. I want you to sell the house for as much money as possible as quickly as possible, which I think is pretty much every seller's goal. Um, but I just want to lay that out. And that can look, it really depends on what is more the goal for the seller. There's some sellers that are in situations where, believe it or not, they would really much rather guarantee that they sell it quickly than guarantee that they're making the most money possible. Um, I will say those sellers end up making quite a bit of money, but the selling it quickly ends up being a lot more popular than selling it for a lot of money. Some people will come to me and say, "Hey, this really only makes sense for me if I can make X amount of money." Then I tell them whether how realistic that is, and then I tell them what the process will look like if just the market is not letting you make that much money, and we talk through those goals as well. Let's go to the next slide. This is your pathway to selling. So, step 1 is obviously this is the initial consultation that we are currently in. That's where I walk through the house and talk about how we're going to present the house as best as we possibly can. Then we talk about pricing strategy. Um, that's where we talk about what we're going to list it at. That list price is an invitation, and that list price is your biggest marketing tool. If we can get it at the right number, we get a ton of people through right away, and we end up typically getting the best offer if we get an offer within that first week. And then fingers crossed, because we're still in a market that this can happen if it's priced right. We get multiple offers, they bid against each other, we find the true price. Not saying that it doesn't work out well for people that only get one offer, but it makes it a lot easier if we get multiple offers. Um, After that initial consultation, you should have a pretty good idea of what you need to do to prep the house. I mean, there's standard stuff that pretty much everyone needs to do. They need to declutter, they need to clean as best as they can, whether that's me hooking them up with resources to professionally clean, whatever that ends up being. We kind of talk about that at the consultation. And then normally there is just a checklist of projects that we want done because you either know something that's wrong with the house that you point out to me, and I was like, oh yeah, we should definitely get that fixed. Or if I just see something cosmetically that I think will be a big turnoff to buyers, as many of those small projects we can get done, that's as less negatives that buyers see when they're walking through, so they really won't have a reason to say no to the house. Uh, it depends on the marketing plan, but a lot of times at this stage, I will be getting a pre-listing inspection done, so you know exactly what a buyer's inspector will be saying when they walk through the house. Inspection is typically the most stressful part of the sale for a seller. Yes, you have an agreed upon amount, but the inspection can ruin that agreed upon amount if they find a big project that needs to be done. A lot of sellers would rather know about those projects ahead of time so they can either get it fixed before listing or disclose it to the buyers and say what they're willing to do to fix it. And then that really decreases the stress of the inspection process. Once we get those projects done, that's when we schedule photos, that's when we schedule videos, that's when I set up my marketing plan. Then we go live on the market. That's when the showings start to happen. Typically, during that initial consultation, I will talk through sellers with what the showing process typically looks like. You should not be at the home. You need to have a plan for what you're going to do when showing requests come through. This is normally when I talk through. A lot of people have dogs. This is normally when I talk through the strategy of, hey, what are we going to do with pets? Do you have a family member that you can bring them to, or are you taking them with you in your car and just going to a park during the showings? Most showings typically only last 30, 45 minutes tops, unless, and this is typically a good thing, unless the buyer completely falls in love with the place, then the showings typically take a really, really long time. I will talk at this point too with how much of a notice that you need. Obviously, we can request a minimum of 4 hours of notice. Some buyers aren't as nice about following that. So I warn people about that as well too. It's like, hey, we can put a 4 hours notice, but what are you gonna do if someone wants to go see the house in 2 hours? That a lot of times just depends on your lifestyle and what you happen to be doing at the time that they want to go see the house. Um, Once you go live on market, eventually you're going to get an offer. I will help you negotiate the offer. We will look at not just the price that they're offering, but we'll look at all the terms that they're potentially wanting to do. If we have multiple offers, I will put those offers in a spreadsheet compared to each other. So you could, okay, offer A has the highest amount of proceeds, but offer A has this term in it that might be more risky. And we kind of debate those against each other and walk through that. Review offers, we accept an offer. Once the offer is accepted, it is under contract. From there, if it is more of a normal transaction, there will be an inspection, there will be an appraisal, and there will be a pest inspection, and then there will be a final walkthrough. Not necessarily in that order. Typically, they're right around that order. Those are the only four things you have left to get to the closing table. Once we get the clear to close, we will get seller documents. You'll sign those seller documents. Once we close, you get a proceeds check, and the house is no longer yours. As simple as that. So, seller consultations are a lot more fun because it's, hey, what are we going to do to market it? What are we going to price it at? What do I think you need to do before we list? How are we going to make sure it's presented as good as we possibly can to get a good offer? It's typically that. And a lot of these conversations, not everyone's home is the same. A lot of these conversations come down to what condition the home is currently in, and are there easy projects that I think that can be done to have it be presented better. And then a lot of it comes down to what are the seller's goals. Honestly, there's some people that reach out to me and it's just like, I'm stressed out by this house. It's costing too much money. I don't want to lift a pinky. What can we sell it at as is? And then that's your goal. We talk about the pricing strategy with that type of goal. Some people are, hey, I have the disposable income to make this house as great as possible. So what projects do you have that I can do to get a good ROI? So it's two completely different things. Let's go through kind of my base marketing plan. There's a lot of other tools I have in my tool bag, but this is basically the stuff that everyone wants and everyone gets. Social media marketing, obviously, we're going to take professional photos. We're going to do professional video. Typically, for every listing, there is minimum 2, but probably more than likely 4 different social media posts that I'm trying to get traction on. Get more people to visit the website highlighting your house. Just get as many eyeballs on it as possible online. And then the good part about doing professional photos, professional video is we are displaying it in the best light possible. Facebook Marketplace, to be totally honest with you guys, this is one that I kind of go back and forth on, but there are agents in our area that have listed their homes that they have listed on Facebook Marketplace and found the buyer through Facebook Marketplace. So I'm not going to reject that potential path just because I've had bad experience with it. So Facebook Marketplace is one that I utilize quite often. Let's see. We got some comments. I'm going to pull them up really quick. No, we are good. Okay. Brokerage agent outreach. I'm at Remax Precision. We have the biggest brokerage in the Des Moines area. We also have a private chat that I can advertise your listing onto and highlight some important parts that you might not necessarily see just by looking in on the MLS and kind of showing it in a different light, and maybe getting someone that has a buyer that isn't quite pre-approved, doesn't even have a portal search set up, but they see it and they say, hey, that's exactly what client A would want. I should talk to them about this house and see if they want to go get it in it the day it's listed. So that is definitely something that can be appealing as well. Cool. Then we have targeted digital advertising. As you're scrolling through social media or Google, you have probably seen sponsored advertisements. that is what those advertisements go to. If the internet knows you're looking at houses, they will send you ads about houses that are listed in your area as well too. Just getting even more eyeballs on it, highlighting the price, highlighting the great photos of it, getting more visits to my website, as many eyeballs on the house as possible. And then there is kind of the old school advertising that I do. I will send out mailers to your direct neighbors so they make sure that the house is listed. I will do open houses that also should highlight to the neighbors that the house is listed. And not only that, the neighbors will be invited to the open house so they can walk through it in person, get an idea of how well priced it is, and hopefully let those neighbors find their new neighbor, which is a really, really good marketing strategy. Um, Open houses also bring in those buyers that are lukewarm or maybe really, really serious. Most serious buyers will tour it with their buyer's agent, but a lot of agents will say open houses don't work. You'll never really find the buyer. I beg to differ. Pretty much every year I've been licensed, I have seen 1 to 2 listings sell through open houses. They do work. It is tricky. It's not the easiest thing in the world. I can't just host one open house and sell a house every weekend, but it does attract buyers that are not quite in the market yet, but they have an easy way to go look at your house. They tour it, they fall in love. It starts to make a lot of sense to them, and they will either offer right immediately, or maybe they'll sign a buyer agency contract with the buyer's agent, go tour a few more, and yours is still the number one. Yours is the reason that they got that pre-approval letter. Yours is the reason that they started thinking about this and they offer on your house. It does very much work. That is that's a listing appointment. A lot of times the listing appointment is not as big of a packet as the buyer's appointment, um, because there's a lot less minutia. It's just how can we get as many people as possible to look at this house, and how can we make sure when they look at it that it's priced right and it's priced well enough that they write an offer. It's as simple as that. But there's a discussion there inside that the seller needs to decide what their main goal is, and do they think I'm the right person for the job, or do they think I should do some certain special marketing thing as possible. You know, that's pretty much it. If you guys ever have any questions about the selling process, don't be afraid to reach out to me. There's a lot of other nuances in the whole conversation, but it's so much more case by case basis. There's discussions on when do we list, what do we wait for. There's also the whole discussion of selling, and then what are you going to move into. Are you in a better market where you want to list your house first then find the house that you're buying, or are you in the type of market that we should find the house that you're buying and then list your house? That's a whole discussion, but it really, really depends person to person. So if you're looking to have a more detailed discussion like that, do not be afraid to reach out. We did get a comment. We got Zach Miller commenting saying that he's a huge fan of the show. Zach, I'm a huge fan of you, and I'm a huge fan of JJ and Bennett. So congrats on having a kid last week. I'm sorry your kid missed the excellent buyer's consultation video that I did last week, but hopefully he's with you right now watching, learning about selling a house. And he'll absorb that through osmosis, and he'll be a great real estate agent if he wants to when he turns 19 or 20. So I appreciate everyone for watching. I hope you guys have a great day. Enjoy the weather that it looks like we're going to get this weekend. I am going to be attempting to break my PR and half marathon this weekend, so make sure to text me encouragement for that. But otherwise, have a great weekend.